to April. We have, as usual, a pretty packed meeting today, at least potentially. I'm hoping that you have some really great questions for Dr. Mackie after you learn a bit more about him and hear from him. So be thinking of those. We'd really like to go to some of you for that. As most of you have been attending our monthly meetings already know, NeoSTEM has been working hard in the last 6 months to focus and drive its work. And we thought we might take a few minutes to review some of that now. Alyssa, where are we with all of this? I feel like you need about 7 more people working with you with the number of projects I keep hearing about. Where are we?
Okay, so things are like kind of on fire for NeoSTEM the last 6 months, and we have had just an incredible run of some great work and some great things happening. So I'll start first with Wired. And Jeremy, you probably shouldn't have let me like talk first, and you need to cut me off and give me the gong. You have my permission. I'm telling you right now that if I go on too long, because I could talk about some of this stuff forever and a day. So I'll start with Wired. Wired, as most of you guys know, was the program that NeoSTEM launched in the early days of the pandemic to partner students with small business and nonprofit managers to help them improve or create an online profile so that they could actually survive, in the pandemic. And it's been incredible. Pilot 1 went off really well, so strong that we did Pilot 2. Pilot 2 just ended with students doing amazing work, from TikTok videos for businesses to teaching them how to manage Hootsuite, to managing emails and all sorts of really cool things. Wired has been really successful. So successful, in fact, that we are getting ready to launch again in this coming summer. We will be partnering with YOU as part of this, and students will be paid through YOU to do Wired yet again. And so we are also happy to report today that Verizon is our sponsor partner for this summer's version of Wired, and we're super excited about that and more to come. There's a couple other developments that I can't exactly talk about yet, but you guys are going to be thrilled and crazy proud. Let me just offer a little hint about it. It involves potentially, Jeremy, something that you actually led us to, and that is a potential partnership. Do you want to say it?
I don't know what it is, Alyssa.
Yes, you do. With Epic. With Epic.
Oh, yeah. So Epic, if you're not familiar, is the creator of Fortnite and the Unreal Engine. So if you don't know Epic, your kids do.
So in large part because of Jeremy and some relationships that he had, we came to know Epic and one of its chief educational designers. And they're pretty intrigued with this Wired program and may want us to use it for some work with Wired this summer. So stay tuned on that. So it's a whole trend about gamifying education and so forth. So we're very excited about that. Dream STEM. Many of you are part of the design team for Dream STEM, so you're going to know about this. And if you aren't part of the design team, many of you were part of the original ideation for this initiative called Dream STEM. So where we are with that is we have developed through 2 design team meetings, a logic model for the program. We will have the 3rd and final meeting of the full design team, which is about 50 some members, 50 some different organizations from throughout the region, and with a heavy concentration on Cleveland, of course. But we have a pretty exciting plan and an aggressive timeline for accomplishing the work, all related to elevating STEM career pathways. At our May NeoSTEM meeting, we will share with you the full plan and ask for your feedback on that, since you, NeoSTEM, is the team that was responsible for the birth of Dream STEM in the very beginning. Couple more really quick updates. Remake Learning Days, we're all set, May 15th to May 23rd, and we have 28 events planned by a dozen organizations, from libraries to museums to colleges and universities, and you'll be hearing more about that as our communications plan ramps up in the next 3 weeks. There's still time to add an event if you want to, by contacting Tim Francisco, and I'll put his email in the chat in a moment. And I just wanted to kind of make a general comment about NeoSTEM and, how powerful these sessions have been for networking and getting to know each other and understanding who's doing what, and gaining a stronger sense of how each other's work can enhance the others. So I think that's been really strong. One more final comment that I wanted to make, Jeremy, and I'm sorry if I'm droning on too long. Again, you have gong privileges, so hit it if you need to. I just wanted to say that through it all, the last 6, 7 months, I wanted to thank all of you. You have been such a dedicated, hardworking team, and we have accomplished so much and have such a clear vision of what the future holds for us. And we still wrestle a little bit with the whole idea of NeoSTEM, what it is, what it can be, what it should be. We started as a very loosely organized collection of people, who would come together infrequently to talk about STEM and to work together to create STEM opportunities. And we have really morphed into something that I think we can all be very proud of. We have a very clear focus on underserved and working to improve racial equity. And I think we've all dedicated ourselves and understand that racial equity must be at the heart of all that we do. I wanted to call your attention to a blog that we just posted, that one of our longtime members and one of our leaders, Milani Labatt Joseph, wrote in the early days of the George Floyd murder, that still has incredible poignance today as we're watching this trial unfold, and await the verdict. So a couple of questions that I wanted to throw out to everybody. How do we want to continue our work? And nobody needs to answer this right now. How do we best connect the great work that is already happening in Northeast Ohio? And what is the ideal role for NeoSTEM beyond the initiatives and the work that we just kind of reviewed? So Jeremy, I'm going to toss it back to you and you can frame what's next.
Thanks, Alyssa. So first of all, I would really like you to buy me a gong. So if you could figure out how to make that happen, I will start integrating the gong into all of our meetings. I have to keep a promise really quick before we move on to Dr. Mackie, and that is I am an incredible parent. Here's how good a parent I am. As you all know, yesterday was Easter Monday, so kids don't have school, except there was a pandemic and calendars changed. So my kids didn't go, but there was school. So they've got all sorts of extra homework today, and dirty looks from their teachers. And my youngest is next to me doing her math homework. And I told her that if she kept on trucking, because she's got a lot to do, that I would let her say hi. So I apologize. But here she is. This is Lucy.
Hello.
Go ahead and say hi.
Hello.
They're all,
Hello.
people are waving.
Hello.
All right.
Keep up the good work.
They say keep up the good work. She's almost done. She's got 4 of 6 pages done. All right. So to kind of get to Alyssa's specific point, what's next? I think, and I think that you guys think too, I think that the best way, or one of the best ways to start to figure out what's next, is to look for incredible models. And we're really, really lucky that, as you know, NeoSTEM is part of a very large network, 94, I think, global members of the STEM learning ecosystem community of practice. And the ecosystem that serves New Orleans is a pretty special and highly functioning ecosystem. Today, we've asked Dr. Calvin Mackie, who's a dear friend of ours, to join us to share a few minutes about how STEM NOLA delivers on its mission to advance equity in STEM and to create meaningful and connected STEM opportunities for all. As we listen to Dr. Mackie, I would challenge you to keep that question of Alyssa's in your mind. Listen to the things that he's doing and think about the questions while we have this resource with us today. Think about the questions that we could ask Dr. Mackie, because you'll have an opportunity to do that after he's done sharing for a little bit. Dr. Mackie is an award-winning mentor, inventor, author, former engineering professor, internationally renowned speaker, and successful entrepreneur. He's the founder of STEM NOLA, a nonprofit organization founded to expose, inspire, and engage communities about the opportunities in STEM. Dr. Mackie has a PhD in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech. He served on the engineering faculty at Tulane University for 12 years. Dr. Mackie has won numerous awards, including the 2003 Presidential Award for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, and Engineering Mentoring, the 2019 Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Phoenix Award, and currently serves on the Louisiana STEM Advisory Council. Dr. Mackie, can you talk to us a little bit about what STEM NOLA is, what STEM NOLA does, and why this work matters?
Okay, first and foremost, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you to the entire NeoSTEM family for having me. When I joined STEM ecosystems, it was like I had found my tribe, and I'm thankful and forever grateful for that. So it does me well, to be able to share with you all the work that we're doing in New Orleans. As Jeremy said, I'm a former engineering professor, and I was moved because I'm looking in the chat room and I see somebody from ASM. And I remember, my PhD is in thermal science, thermal processing of materials. One of the first papers and conferences I ever presented at was ASM, like in Denver. So it's like when these things get connected, it's kind of overwhelming. I did not think I would see ASM again ever in my life. So it's good. It's good to know. We founded STEM NOLA in 2013. We didn't even know what an ecosystem was, but our goal was, how do we engage the community in STEM? A lot of times we take for granted that people know what STEM is, that people know the pathways in STEM, and especially for parents. And I'm not talking about low income, low resource parents. A lot of middle class, higher income people still don't have a general understanding of the opportunities in STEM and what it has to offer their kids in a larger community. So in 2013, we started this community-based program to go into communities and engage everyone in STEM. And we started the hashtag STEM for All. And we began to get on the radio and TV and just talk about STEM. And one thing we realized quickly was that we had to change the way that we spoke about STEM. STEM is kind of a trade word that we throw around, but when you start talking to the general public, you have to talk in a language that the general public understand. So we started saying, like, come out and build, race, and design your car and win $50. And at the bottom, we'll say, learn about Newton's laws and the three laws of motion. So when we began to change the narrative, such that the narrative spoke to the community began to respond. So we started first and foremost with things called STEM Saturdays and these big STEM fests, where we engaged upward of 200-300 kids at one time. We would invite college students out, and we would pay the college students a stipend to engage the K-12 students. And then we would invite volunteers out, and they would surround the college students in the STEM and the K-12 kids. And we called that a high functioning STEM community. And we call that vertical mentoring also, because at any given point in time, a little boy or little girl can see him or herself in the pipeline. So in essence, we had created a cradle to career pipeline with each and every one of these institutions. Now, the challenges with dealing with educational institutions and the challenges with starting an ecosystem in an educational institution is that it is an institution. So it's very difficult to get them to embrace new things or to change on a dime, because there's the big bureaucracy sitting there saying, well, we've been doing it this way. Let's get a committee of 100 people and see if we can come up with some agreement. By starting this in a community and by getting buy-in from the community, the education institutions, the colleges, the corporations got to see what it is what we were doing. They got to see the kids engaged in STEM. It got to see the impact and the effectiveness of the curriculum and the kits that we had developed. So we got buy-in from the institutions. And once we got buy-in from the institutions, then we were able to make changes to the institutions. I think all of our STEM ecosystems should be almost like the Geek Squad at what service, I want to say service merchandise, damn. What it is, Best Buy, right? We should be the Geek Squad for Best Buy. So now colleges, corporations, and K-12 institutions are coming to us for advice on how to engage the students. Can you train our teachers? Can you build this such that our kids will know about this? So we kind of flipped the script. We built the ecosystem in the community such that the ecosystem was serving the community. Once we got buy-in from the community, then all the institutions began to buy in to what we were doing. So now it's like a finger in the glove. So we're working with everybody. So now the school systems have summer loss money, and we're at the table, and they're saying, what should we be doing to engage kids to help with summer loss? Because with STEM is about doing. And one thing that we said with STEM NOLA, first and foremost, is that we were going to be about action and about doing. So we built a whole lot of hands-on activities, a whole lot of activity where kids had to come and get off devices and engage with each other. So they was building, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication. They were doing all that, but more importantly, people were able to see it. They were not waiting on a survey or an evaluation. We had parents there saying, I've never seen my kid respond like this. Matter of fact, we had educators out there saying, I've never seen this kid respond like this in school. So the educators were saying, what is it that we're doing wrong? Or what is it that we can change so that we now begin to get this type of response from our students? So I think the difference in STEM NOLA was that, and I keep bringing it up, is that we started with the community, and now we built a model that we believe that's scalable, transferable, and reproducible to help other communities organize themselves such that they can become the center and the hub of their community for all of the other STEM organizations. And I see Gwen from Bridgeport on. We work with Gwen in Bridgeport, and we built all these different STEM modules, right? So, we expose the kids, Gwen, we expose the kids to force in motion, to transmission and power, to water, to the environment. We have all these different modules. And the reason why that works is because I say this and people laugh. I say, I hate coding. I got 4 STEM degrees. I got a BS in math and BS, MS, PhD in mechanical engineering, and I hate coding, but I hate biology. I hate chemistry. I hate electrical engineering. I hate chemical engineering. But I love mechanical engineering, right? And I don't even like all of mechanical engineering. I mean, I love thermal science and mechanical engineering. And I say that to say this: we have to expose our kids to a whole lot of things so they can find themselves in STEM. And when they find themselves in STEM, then those pathways that we always talk about, we can point them down a pathway and they go. We started 7 years ago, and now we have a staff of nearly 40 people. We have 22 full-time people. Out of 22 full-time people, we have 30-something people with STEM degrees. We are pretty much sustainable, and that was our goal. And I believe we've built something that can help you and help your community get to where we are. So I'm gonna shut up because I'm gonna open it up for questions, because I think you'll get more information by asking me questions than me just running off at the mouth. So thank you.
Perfect. So I think what we're going to do is open up to questions. Hopefully there are some, and we'll give those to Calvin. And then I think we're going to break into a couple of groups to sort of synthesize in smaller groups the things that Calvin's talked about and the things that Alyssa's asking, the things that NeoSTEM has done. And then we'll come back in case additional questions come out of that. So what questions do we have for Calvin? Are there any so far?
I have a question, and unfortunately, I have to jump off soon. I can't go into the breakout rooms. The NSBE virtual conference is happening this week, and my kids are competing. But first of all, I like to say that the program was great. We use it in Bridgeport. I think we did about over 100 students. It was easy, just a program in a box, and it was just really great. My question is, New Orleans is certainly larger than Connecticut. Did you run into any like sort of issues, or like, is there anybody else in your community that is like doing the same thing you're doing, or like, did you run into any sort of like conflict with any other organizations?
Ooh.
If so, how did you?
That's a whole book, Gwen. That's a whole book. But
okay.
The answer is yes. But the answer is yes, right? So, I mean, in a nutshell, you have funders who were saying, why should we fund another STEM organization? There are other organizations out there doing STEM, right? Then you have STEM organizations going, we're doing STEM, why do we need another organization? However, the funders, none of those organizations was serving the kids on my side of town.
Okay.
So my point is, I'm not saying they're not doing STEM, and I'm not saying you're not funding STEM, but I'm saying there's an entire community that need to be served, and that's and first and foremost, that's our goal. Moreover, the way in which we were going to deliver the STEM wasn't even comparable to what other people were doing, because other people were based in the school. And just a short story, another guy with a PhD, when I started STEM NOLA, he founded STEM NOLA. And he called me up and he said, you know, man, can we talk? Because I think there's going to be confusion in the marketplace. And I said, when I'm going to roll out, I promise you, there will be no confusion. I promise you. And within 8 months, he was defunct. And the other organizations that were doing STEM, what we really did was that we exposed them, because, I mean, they had all the money tied up. They saying they was doing things. And the way we did what we did and the way we publicized it and the stories that we told really left everybody wide open for criticism and said, you all been here. Why haven't you done this? And I'll give you one example, Tulane University. I was a professor at Tulane University for 12 years. Tulane University wanted to serve the community in which I grew up. They could have been done it. They've never done it, and they're still not doing it. It seems like they don't have any plans to do it. So, you know, it is, look, I have no problem with competition. You know, the man in the arena, everybody to the arena, and let's go. But I ran into many headwinds. And what our model is a disruptive model. So when you're trying to disrupt the status quo, you should expect that. As a matter of fact, Machiavelli said you'll find lukewarm defenders in those who profess to want change. They're not interested in change. And we brought change to the arena. And when you bring change to the arena, Seth Golden book called Tribe, right? You have to go find your tribe. Find the people that are gonna support you. Don't worry about the people that's not. And then eventually, like my daddy said, you stand on the river, you stand by the river long enough, they'll come by.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mackie. You know, all the rest of you, I want to point out that yet again, our friend Annalise is showing you all up by not only having a question, but by using the hand raise button, which I frankly forgot existed. So Annalise, could you go ahead and unmute, introduce yourself to Dr. Mackie as well, the abridged version of Annalise and how you came to be with us, and then ask your question.
Yes, good morning, Dr. Mackie and everybody else. My name is Annalise Everett. I originally came as I was one of the members that participated in the first pilot of Wired, and I have recently been a student council for Dream STEM as well. My question today is, how did the community initially react to your organization with STEM, and if that reaction was negative, how did you persevere and keep going to gain their trust?
Thank you, Annalise, for that question. It is a very good question, and you know, I have these little sayings, Annalise. I have a son, and he's 18. He's 17. He think he's 18. I told him last night, you're not 18. So you better listen. So my point to him is this, right? Go where you celebrate it, not where you tolerate it. When we came out the box, again, there were people going, why? Here we go. But our first event, we planned for 100 people, and 500 people showed up. So that was it. I do my politics by addition. So then I begin to add on. I have 500 people that support me. Now the question is, how do I add on? You know, some people from Missouri, the show me state, sometimes you got to show them, right? So it took time for people to come on. It took time for funders. One of my biggest funders, Alyssa knows, is Chevron. For the first 3 years, Chevron didn't fund us. They just stood back and watched. But it got to a point where Chevron going, woo, I think we need to get on this train. So I don't spend a lot of time, Annalise, in my personal life and even my professional life worrying about the people who's against it, who just don't like it or don't like me. As a matter of fact, we have these sayings on the board, right? Some of our values is intentionality. We're very intentional about what we do. Consistent, we're consistent in what we do. And the third one, Annalise, if you remember this, is credibility. I tell the community, don't check my credit, check my credibility. Because the community is so used to people misusing them and abusing them. So when we kept showing up, we gained more trust in the community. And it was many in the community saying, yeah, you know, he's just trying to get a little publicity. After he get a couple of articles written, he's gonna be going like everybody else. 8 years, we still here. So the integrity and the credibility part is off the table now. And you just gotta stick with it. You just gotta stick with it and keep doing it. And believe me, there were some people who questioned it, and there's still some people who question it. But we're gonna get up every day and continue to serve young people like you.
Thank you. And my last question is, one, I'm also 17 too, so maybe it's the same age. Do you have any ideas of what we can be doing for here in Cleveland?
I heard that attitude in your voice like you were a 17-year-old.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. The model that we have built, I am convinced, is something that communities can use. And we're STEM NOLA, and other communities have adopted our model, like Baton Rouge, and then STEM Baton Rouge, because we believe what we built is like, you know, the framework for people to frame it for their community. I don't know anything about Cleveland, so how could I come to Cleveland and say, do this? You know, we could come to Cleveland like McDonald's and say, look, we built this hamburger, 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. And then you decide how, you know, the Cleveland people should digest it and how it should be brought to them. But when you bring it to them, you're going to get the same result. So what you have to do, not only in Cleveland, but all over, is that we have to organize the community around STEM. In politics, one thing that politics have taught me, and in 2005, I did a sabbatical at the University of Michigan in engineering school. I was supposed to be studying the steam reforming of petrochemicals to deliver hydrogen for fuel cells. But every day I sneak over to the poli-sci school, the sociology school, the marketing, and talk to the people, right? Because I said, we're doing something wrong in STEM. And there's a saying in politics that say organized people beat organized money every time. And what we have not done in STEM is that we have not figured out how do we organize the people. And I'm not talking about, you know, these ecosystems where you got all these managers and the head of schools and this. I'm talking about the community. How do we organize the community and then deliver a message to them that they can digest such that we get the response that we need so that our children can get the services that they need?
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. I took notes while you were writing. Thank you.
I'm glad you did. You get my email, you hit me up anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annalise. Dr. Mackie, before we go to, there's I think a really good question from Kirsten here, but before we go to that, I was hoping that maybe you could share the story that you've told us before about some kids who you wanted to get involved with STEM NOLA, and you had to use some dice to get them there.
Hey, that's my habit. So when I was growing up as a little boy, you know, I tell a story. I'm from New Orleans. I'm from Backertown, Gertown, Zion City. There's all these little neighborhoods in New Orleans. And when you say you got a PhD in engineering, people look at you like maybe you just was, you know, some silver spoon baby. Well, I grew up in a house with no books. My father dropped out of school in 8th grade to pick cotton. My mother went to a state-approved Negro high school. And at least I actually started college in remedial reading and developmental math. So I'm every little boy, right, who thought they were going to go to the NBA and play in the NCAA like the other night and separated my shoulder. So I spent a lot of time in the community dribbling my basketball. But one game I learned how to play was dice. And I love dice, right? So, you know, one day I saw these kids shooting dice. And I walked up and they looked at me like, oh man, what you want? And I was trying to tell them about STEM. They didn't want to hear it. So I said, well, can I shoot some dice? They looked at me like, you know how to shoot dice? Because, you know, I was kind of dressed very professionally. And I said, move over. And literally, I taught math, shooting dice, while taking their money. And the deal was is that they can have their money back if they come to my STEM program, because it was clear to me that there was mathematical geniuses too. And that's, you know, the other day, tell you another story. The other day we go to the supermarket. I have my two sons with me. I buy all my stuff. I get a little young lady my card, my awards card, and it takes off like $47. It go boop, 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 boop. And it's like minus $47. And I turn to my sons and I say, that's big data, sons, that's big data. And everybody in the line going, what? The cashier was going, what? So literally I taught a lesson on big data. I said, they giving me $47 just so they can have the information on what I'm buying. That's called predictive analytics. So if they can know when I buy my beer or when I buy my meat, now they can predict when they need to stock the stores, right? And if it's worth $47 to them, if they're gonna give me $47, how much do you think it's worth to them? Then I said, and that's why they got you on Facebook, that's why you're on TikTok, that's why you're on Instagram, because they're getting your data so they can do data analytics. And the little cashier said, wow, I never knew that. I just thought they were giving them money. But we have to make STEM as relevant as we can, especially for your generation, so that they can understand that everything that they're being impacted by is absolutely STEM.
Thank you so much.
You're muted, Jeremy.
Okay, super confused because I thought I was, but Angie just texted me, Jeremy, you're not muted. Very confused. I don't know what happened. I'd like, before we split into those breakout groups, I'm hoping that Kirsten is here and can ask a question. She has a great question about getting folks to understand the value of STEM.
Yeah, so my question is, and this is a great segue with just what you were saying, is that often my perception is, at least within my district, is that STEM is an independent subject. A few years ago, we had a guest speaker, had about 800 teachers in this big ballroom, and the guest speaker said, how many of you teach STEM? And not a soul raised their hands.
That's right.
And it was math, science, computer, and they just didn't recognize themselves within STEM because they think of STEM as an independent, separate subject from science, tech, engineering, and math. So how do we get them to realize and see themselves in that?
But that's the messaging part, right? And that's why with STEM, we have to push problem-based learning. You can't have STEM, that's why I keep going back to the doing part, right? You can't have STEM without doing. And you can't have STEM without reading. You can't have STEM without writing. I used to be in college, you say all the time, you STEM people need to take liberal arts to be more well-rounded. And I say, well, when are liberal arts people going to take STEM so they can be more well-rounded? The people in STEM, we had to take all those subjects. So when I started out, I said, we have a messaging issue. We have a messaging issue in the general public, but we definitely have a messaging issue on the education side. And the problem with education is that they want everything to be in a box. Everybody want everything to be black and white, and they don't deal with ambiguity and gray very well, when STEM is very gray. As a matter of fact, I tell the science people, you're not STEM, you're science. I tell the math people, you're not math, you're not STEM, you're math. I tell tech people, you're not STEM, you're tech. But when you put science and tech together, you got to have 2 of the 4 in order to be considered STEM. It is that interrelationship of these subject areas that produce the things that we love and that we need. So the question is, how do we have these conversations with these cross-disciplinary, so people can understand that what they do is just as important as the mathematician in terms of getting kids to pursue STEM.
Yeah, thank you. That's and that's something that we struggle with, because I don't understand how you can do science without doing math. And I don't understand how you can do science and math without integrating the technology. And I'm a biologist by trade, so we're not even talking about somebody with an engineering degree.
That's right. But here's the thing, but you can do biology. You know, I tell people science tell you what is, engineering create that which never was before. So, you know, my son like me, he said, I hate biology, Daddy. I said, why you hate biology, son? He said, because it's rote memory. I said, I got it. That's why I hated it too. And I said, both of us hate biology because that's the way it was presented to us. If it was presented to us in a different way, both of us would probably love technology, because at the root of technology is math. So that we have a long way to go in that, but we got it, Kirsten, we got to keep pushing it.
I agree 100%.
Thank you, Kirsten. Next, I'd like to hear from Donna Flint, who's got a really good conversation, or question rather, about partnerships. And I know that Calvin has done some really incredible work with partnerships in New Orleans. So I think it's a very applicable question to the work we're trying to do here in Cleveland. Donna?
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Hi, Dr. Mackie. I work for a major engineering company, and we are constantly searching for engineers and wanted to start growing our own, basically. So I wanted to ask you about your community partners, especially corporations, because our company, along with 5 other companies, started the Cleveland STEM School several years ago. And I kind of think that might be a good approach for what we're doing in Cleveland. So I'd like to hear what your thoughts are around your community partners, especially the corporations. How did you get them to buy in?
Cleveland STEM School, is that M2? Is that M2?
MC squared, yes, sir.
Yeah. So General Electric, right? The president of the General, I'm sorry?
Yes, General Electric was part of it.
Right. So the president of the General Electric Foundation at the time that funded that is like a personal friend and on my advisory board. And it leads to very lively conversations when, you know, an engineer have a conversation with a funder, and the funder think they know the engineering. And I'm like, nah, you know, I make engineers. You know, that's what I do. I have made engineers. I was an engineering professor. I've taken kids from high school, middle school, and literally they're engineers today. And a lot of stuff that companies want to do and thinking that it's going to make an engineer is not it. Now, a lot of things they do, I say, are necessary but insufficient. And that's a mathematical term. If you study mathematics, we always talk about stuff being necessary but insufficient. So when I'm critical of some things, I'm not saying it should go away. My answer is yes and, not yes but. So I have many corporations that are partners with STEM NOLA. And the way we got them to be partners was that it's about a value proposition. I go to corporations and I try to figure out what it is they're looking for, and then I offer that up to them. So if I go to, for example, Chevron is a major partner. Chevron is very interested in engaging the community around chemistry and making sure kids have a basic understanding and literacy in chemistry. So we offer them those type programs. Entergy, my local utility, we offer them programming around power and transmission. Boeing is building the strongest rocket in the world here to go to Mars. So we build programming that would otherwise align with what they're trying to do. Like with Robotify and the kids, having challenges on Mars with the rover. Or we have these big rocket days and the kids learn about Newton's laws and force and motion. So I don't go to these technology companies and ask them to sponsor mentoring. I don't go to a chemical company and ask them to sponsor, let's say, biology. We find out the value proposition for them and then present that to them in a way that for them to say no, it almost make them look crazy, right? So if you're a big manufacturing company and I go to you and say, we're gonna teach 1,000 kids intro to manufacturing, and you say no, so why are you here? And I leverage my political apparatus on that. I mean, a lot of times I go to their lobbyists, I find out who their lobbyists are, I find out who their government affairs and public affairs people are, and I talk to them because the last thing they want is for them to go into the city councilman's office or the state rep office or the senator's office and the senator say, so you won't sponsor kids in manufacturing? I mean, why are you in our community, right? So you got to circle the wagons and talk to everybody. And my community partners, now, another thing about about my corporate partners, not only do I deliver and execute for them, but I always submit to them something called like I call it a stewardship report. So at the end of the year, at the end of their funding, they don't have to ask. I give them infographics, data, I give them everything they need so they can write reports, they can show it. I uplift their brain in the community. So it's a win-win for them. I'll give you another example. We've never gotten money from Dow Chemical. Dow Chemical called yesterday, and I believe Dow Chemical called yesterday because for the last 2 weeks, been running all these ads about how Shell gonna sponsor this big event in Baton Rouge. So now we got Shell, we got we got Chevron, and they left out there like a baby in the rain. And somebody asking like, why are we not involved in this? So sometimes you just have to shame people to do what they need to do. But again, you got to go find the people who's interested, and then go for it. Now I'm gonna answer your real question about growing your own engineer. How do you grow your own engineer? Because I got 2 sons. I've been giving them STEM from the womb. And my son who's in the 10th grade, he's telling me, Daddy, I don't want to be an engineer. And I'm like, I'm gonna disown you. He said, Daddy, I don't want to be an engineer. Now my senior, he got full rides to 3 different universities. He's trying to decide what school he's gonna go major in engineering. But this kid who we've given everything to, AP classes, summer camps, he's bent that he don't want to be an engineer, and I'm proud of him and I'm happy for him. So when you start talking about growing your own engineers, companies got to understand that this is a long-term investment, a generational investment, right? The NFL makes sure that every boy touch a football before the age of 4, because there's 4,000 universities or 3,000 universities with football teams, and there's 32 football teams in the NFL, and the NFL want to make sure that through the generation, through 20 years, we're trying to hook these kids into football so the best of can end up in the NFL. Corporations have to make that same type of investment in their community. And they can't do it at one school. That's what I'm saying. One school ain't gonna get you engineering. So that's why I'm about STEM for all, because we don't know where the talent is. No one would have bet that Calvin Mackie would be Dr. Mackie speaking to you today, and nobody invested in my school. So how much other talent is lost by people picking and choosing early on who's gonna be great? As a matter of fact, they don't do that in football and sports. When LSU come to New Orleans to recruit, they go to every high school.
Donna, I also, that sort of begs the question for me, and I don't know if this is something you can answer right now. I'm guessing it isn't, but I would challenge you to think about it, and anybody else who's here representing a major company, but even a small company here in the region. What can NeoSTEM do for you? We're a collection of schools and universities and after school programs and companies and foundations and funders and all of those things. So I would challenge you to really think about what we can do for you, because there's a really solid chance that there's some overlap with an existing program, or the seed of a program has already been discussed that we could kind of carry forth from there. So I'm hoping that you'll take that challenge, think about that a little bit, and reach out to Alyssa soon with that.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Imagine this, right? So those companies make all that investment in the community. It'll be great. By the time kids in 11th or 12th grade, NeoSTEM can identify 100, 200, 300 kids that's going to school in engineering. So that's what we call our STEM NOLA fellows, right? We have this pipeline. We have all these K through 2nd kids, all these 3rd through 5th, all these 6th through 8th. But now we are gathering these 9th through 12th graders. The ones, not my sophomore, because he said he don't want to be an engineer, so you can't come to this event. But my other son, you can come. And now we create that tribe, right? And we tell the companies, look, we've identified at least 300 kids in our city that said they're gonna be engineers. And now you keep that database, and they can recruit them over the next 4 years for internships. No matter where they go to college, they can bring them back on for internships. And that's how they grow their employees. Now, I'm gonna have to charge y'all for that one, that one there. I'm gonna send the invoice.
Thank you, Dr. Mackie. I see another hand raised from my friend Helen Williams, who I haven't seen in, I think, 2 years. Helen, hi, and what's your question?
How are you?
I'm great.
So, Dr. Mackie, I'm listening to you, and I think you are an extraordinary person, and part of these startups really begin with somebody who has the passion, who listens to the community, who goes out there and does what needs to be done, removes the barriers. You have a whole philosophy about how you started this, which I really appreciate. And I'm wondering if we wanted to start something like this, like organize, and understanding it would have to have like the Cleveland flavor. Do you ever take like an intern for 2 or 3 months that follows you around and watches what you do and what your organization does to bring back ideas?
Helen, I want to, this is a New Orleans joke. I'm sorry. She said the Cleveland flavor. I want like, what is the Cleveland flavor? Because I was there and I didn't get a chance to taste it.
Well, we have a lot of great food, but anyway,
All right.
just none of our restaurants, not many are open. But anyway,
All right. So I'm gonna come back. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. People come down and they walk side by side with us. Like we've started STEM Minneapolis, and we have this thing going back and forth where they come walk with us, and then we turn around and go back when they have an event and walk side by side with them. That's more of a contractual thing to make sure that they're doing it right. And I agree with you, right? Many times when people talk to me about this, they say, hey man, everybody ain't Calvin Mackie. And I said, I know, my wife keep telling me that, but
she probably means it differently.
But every community has an edu-evangelist, right? We built, you got to find that one person in the community,
Right.
and that person may not necessarily have a STEM background, but it's the person who's willing to go kick doors in, and
Right.
That activist around this area to just make things happen so everybody can walk in the door.
Right.
So that's why I say it got to be STEM, right? That's why it's important that you have NeoSTEM, because then people know that, hey, this is for Northeast Ohio. Then you got to marshal the resources and the people in one direction. And you can't have a movement without a voice. So somebody got to be the voice to carry it for NeoSTEM, and people will respond.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Calvin, I think I've got just one more question for you, and this is my own, unless something just came in the last couple seconds. It didn't, other than Donna Flint saying that you need to come get a po' boy, a Polish boy here in Cleveland, because we have incredible food. And that's just, when I was in New Orleans, I think it was the first time we hung out, maybe, and we were in a little restaurant, little kind of private room restaurant with a bunch of people, and we were chatting, and you started talking to me about this seed of an idea you had at the time, for a building. You had a space, you had a location in mind, and you wanted it to happen. And I understand that's moving along. And I'm curious if you could share a little bit about what the genesis of that was, what the hopes for the building are, and perhaps most importantly, how you've found support and funding to make that a reality.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, that was a good night in that little spot. I can't wait till this thing is over so we can get back together. But I had an idea to create like a inner city learning center. And I started looking at buildings and just happened to have a conversation with someone who told somebody else. And Oxygen Health Systems, the largest health system in the state of Louisiana, has since donated to STEM NOLA a 42,000 square foot building. And it sits on 86,000 square feet of land. So we have the building, we have rendering of what the building should be. And I just had this vision of a clubhouse. My brother is Anthony Mackie. In full disclosure, if you're watching The Winter Soldier, look at Annalise. Anthony Mackie is my brother. And I say that not to brag on Anthony Mackie is my brother, but when Anthony was in middle school, our mother passed away. I was in engineering school, and he said, look, I want to be an actor. And I'm like, you're going to be an engineer. And literally, I used to send him to these camps at Mobile Oil. And he started failing everything except like his acting stuff. So he said, I don't want to be an engineer. I said, okay then. So we had him tested, and he tested into a place called NOCA, New Orleans Center of Creative Arts. So my point is that he had a talent, and there was a clubhouse somewhere for him to go to develop that talent. Leonard Fournette that just won the Super Bowl. I've been knowing Leonard Fournette since 6th grade. In the 6th grade, we knew Leonard Fournette was going to play on Sundays. There was the whole AAU system where he could plug in and develop his talent. Where when a middle schooler tell us, or we identify a middle schooler like Annalise that's talented, where do they go? So I wanted to build like the New Orleans Center of Creative Arts for STEM in my community, so that when we identify these schools, so like when I believe it was Kirsten, whoever asked about these companies, so now we could take the best of who we are, from all over, not just at one school. If a kid just like artificial intelligence, we could take her and give her all artificial intelligence she wants, but she has a clubhouse where she can come and find the expertise, the support, find her tribe, and know that this is the place for her. So this 42,000 square foot building will be that place. We just got 1.25 million from Kellogg for it. I got to raise 10 million. When Kellogg found out about it, I was applying for something else, and I just happened to mention this building. They like to lost their mind. And they believe that, hey, maybe this could be the impetus for something like this in every community. Because what the ecosystem is the spokes, right? You built the spokes. Now this building will be the hub. A lot of times we build a hub, but we never build the spokes. So now we got a hub. You go out to the community and you engage all these students, and the students who want it. I'm not talking about the rich students or the white or the black or the smart. The students who want it, they have a clubhouse, and they can come and they can get it 24 hours a day.
It's really such an exciting opportunity. I can't wait to see it develop, and for Alyssa and I and the rest of the ecosystem team to help you make that a reality. Dr. Mackie, thank you again for your time.
Somebody said a maker space for youth. I'm saying, imagine a maker space on steroids. You know, we start talking about maker space. We dream too small. It's good to have a maker space in a school, but 42,000 square feet with everything you can imagine for kids to have access to, regardless of their income level.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Mackie, thank you again for joining us. You're a fount of knowledge every time that we work with you, and I really appreciate everything that you do, not only for the community in New Orleans, but for all the other communities like Cleveland around the country when you lend your knowledge and your skills. Thank you all for joining us today. And for joining us each month as we kind of work to reshape NeoSTEM into something very actionable and specific. You heard some updates already from Alyssa. I'm sure you're going to hear more via email prior to our next meeting. That next meeting is on May 4th, Star Wars Day at 4 o'clock. So I hope to see all of you and more here on that day, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, everyone.